Hi, I'm Shawn Wilson, Secretary of the Department of Transportation, and thank you for tuning in to Transportation Talks, straight from the Secretary's office. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the task force effort that's been underway. 6 months ago, Governor Edwards issued a task force that is comprised of state officials, as well as local government representatives, and most importantly, businesses from all around the state of Louisiana. And we spent 6 months looking at best practices, looking at reports, and looking at stories, but most importantly, we traveled to your community. We went to every major city in the state of Louisiana, and we had over 750 participants that came to our meetings and gave us ideas on transportation. One thing that was universally accepted was that we have a transportation funding problem. Most importantly, we don't spend enough on transportation. People asked us, where do we spend our dollars? And we took time over the last 6 months to demonstrate that the problems we have in transportation, it's not a result of process, it's not a result of selection, it's a result of a lack of investment in infrastructure for the big picture of what we need in the state of Louisiana. So there were two planks that the Transportation Task Force chose to focus on. One was the policy initiative, and the other is a funding and finance. So let's talk about the funding and finance first. The task force recommended a new investment in transportation infrastructure to the tune of about $700 million. Why is that important, you might ask? Well, we have over $15 billion of new projects that we think are important. And we have about $13 billion of projects that are already built that need attention. We're talking about old bridges that need to be replaced. Bridges that right now cause school buses to have to take a 30 or 40-minute detour. That's the challenge facing Louisiana, is how do we grow our system and how do we maintain our system? It's going to take a long-term investment. This problem didn't occur overnight, and neither will the fix. So with that $700 million, there's some other components of what we think are important for transportation. We think it's important that we look at truck permit fees and truck registration, not just giving them direct service or direct impact from those dollars, but equalizing that so that there's fairness in that system. The task force also suggested that we provide an offset so that we continue to be a business-friendly state. So if we have an increase in diesel fuel taxes, we think it's important that we recognize that in any new fees for permits or registration. We also talked about raising the aviation fuel tax. That goes directly to airport infrastructure in the state of Louisiana, and it's only charged on aviation fuel. On the second plank for the Transportation Task Force, we talked about policy. We thought it was important to look at best practices, sustainable practices from all around the country in the 22 states that have made an investment in their infrastructure since 2012. We realized there are no monopolies on good ideas, and here are a couple that we talked about. We said first and foremost, let's do categorical expenditures with any new revenue we have. That means segregating our funds such that some is going to capacity, building new bridges and large infrastructure. We also said let's spend a percentage of it on preservation, taking care of the roads that we've already built. And third and foremost, we said we've got to be multimodal and look at aviation, look at transit, look at rail, look at all kinds of active transportation solutions. From a policy perspective, categorical solutions really do work. Secondly, we looked at the history of our gas tax and came up with a method of indexing transportation funding. Here's what's good. We didn't say how to index it. You can index it to CPI, you can index it to the construction index, you can also index it to fuel efficiency as George is doing. Most importantly, we want to preserve the value of the tax dollars that you're going to invest in the state of Louisiana. Here's the other kicker on that. We think it's important to have accountability. We don't necessarily think that the department ought to be the entity that sets that standard, that pulls the trigger on index. We want the legislature to do it. We think it's important that the Revenue Estimating Committee and the Joint Legislative Committee on the Budget, that they participate because that's their expertise. We want them to control volatility and take advantage of timing when it comes to indexing. So what are the next steps from here? Well, the task force honored the governor's executive order and delivered a report to him at the end of 2016. We expect to hear from the governor in terms of what's practical because he understands the needs facing Louisiana are significant. We have large structural budget issues that this administration is committed to resolving, and transportation is a subset of the overall system in the state of Louisiana's budget. We expect to hear from the governor and then turn it over to the legislature and look forward to many of their solutions. I'd like to thank the task force members for all of their hard work and every one of the 750 plus citizens who participated. I keep a book on my desk called The Little Book of Big Ideas, and we're very excited that we've shared some big ideas for infrastructure here in Louisiana. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Transportation Talks with the Secretary. Please feel free to follow me on Facebook and/or Twitter, or email me at dotdsecretary@la.gov. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to talking to you again next month.